Well, hello, this is Iron Bill back again with another video. I hope you're doing well. It's snowy here in southern Indiana. We had the day off from work, as it turns out, not 2 hours late. But yeah, otherwise it's been a pretty unremarkable day. It's Thursday, and as Thursday rolls around, we have Bungie's This Week at Bungie, which is their weekly report on the state of the game and their plans for the future. And I decided to check this out today. I don't often, but I decided today I would because we're entering the end of Season 13 and the beginning of Season 14. We're in the last 2 weeks, a week and a half actually, of it right now, and of Season 13, and they will be teasing out information next week for the upcoming season of the Redacted, as they're calling it. I don't know what it's going to be called, but we have some exciting things that could be coming next season, 14. But if not 14, then certainly in the season after. Vault of Glass. Been looking for signs that Vault of Glass will be coming back. Now, if that comes back, it also means that we'll have Venus, because Vault of Glass takes place on Venus. We'll see how that works out. Anyway, this week at Bungie, just kind of moving over it. One of the things that is going to change, and that's in this section here, is that they'll be doing away with weekly bounties on particular vendors, and that would be vendors such as Shax, Benedict, also Zavala, the two big weekly bounties for XP, and they'll still have daily bounties, but they won't have the weekly. The weekly will be put into events that or activities that you can do throughout the season, and they'll have various levels of challenge. The point is, it's more about playing the game and getting your XP for that, rather than collecting a specific task that you have to do. So if you're playing these activities anyway, you don't have to worry about, for instance, carrying a particular weapon while you're doing it, or you know, getting so many ability kills, whatever. It's just completing the activity. So if you'd like to do raids, then of course that'll count towards your XP. If you like to do dungeons, fine. If you want to do trials, fine. You know, all of these things count. It also will encourage people to play activities they ordinarily wouldn't, or force them, depending upon how you want to look at it. So it's 6 of one, half dozen of another. We'll see how it pans out. And with so many things Bungie, it's always a matter of how they do these things, because they can make things sound like they're going to be okay, and then just have very poor implementation of what they stated they would do, and then people wind up pretty unhappy. Example being sunsetting weapons. It could have been a really good thing. It didn't wind up being such a good thing, and they're having to backtrack on some of that right now. So I'm hoping they've thought this new change out better than they thought out sunsetting, because if not, they're starting to head towards a bad place again. And you know, to that point, I will tell you that I've been a Destiny player since beta, and that's a long time, 2014, 2015, and the game rises and falls. It's never completely died, but it's been close. And you know, they had a really close call a couple of years ago for a variety of reasons I don't need to go into right now, but the player numbers really dropped. And this weekend in trials, less than 100,000 people played across all platforms, and that's only happened one other time, and that was in that really bad place that I've just referred to. And it's not a healthy sign. I don't play trials, so to me it's not going to hurt me personally, but it's an indication of where the game is in terms of its player base. Never forget that. Whether you like something or not, if people aren't doing it, that's probably not good for the game. So I'm hoping they get some things straightened out with this. And honestly, this is set up as a looter shooter, and if there's not good loot to chase, then people will not want to repeat the same activities over and over again. It's just common sense. So let's hope they do a better job. Alright, so right here, development team, during our production of Beyond Light, we started looking at the problems of bounty fatigue, FOMO, fear of missing out, that is. And they decided to make some changes. Provide a guide to new, returning, and veteran players for what to do today, this week. Guide the player through the seasonal content week over week. Encourage players to engage with the complexities and nuances of the seasonal activity and rituals. Reduce the penalties of XP and Bright Dust for missing a given week. So they're trying to have their cake and eat it too. They're trying to make it so that you're not worried about not playing and missing out on something that you would have to play at that particular time to get it, but they're also encouraging you to continue play. So that's what stood out to me. They're saying one thing, but they're kind of coercing you to do another. Now, whether or not that removes FOMO, I don't know. FOMO to me, though, in its worst, was when they would put things in Eververse for a limited amount of time, and they would quote-unquote say you could earn the bright dust or whatever materials you needed to get it, but they throttled the XP on that so much that you couldn't earn it fast enough to get everything, which meant you were going to miss something, which is exactly what fear of missing out taps into. So them talking about FOMO in this sense is not quite the same as the really bad stuff they were into before. You know, essentially they were kind of in a loot box type scheme, and that's never good for a game. Alright, so let's move on. This is just an outline of how those seasonal challenges might work. The long and the short of it is, seasonal challenges will give you XP towards advancing, and as long as you do those activities within the time frame of the season, they'll count with the XP, but you can still complete them after the season's over. You just won't get the XP for them. So the way it works right now, if I am going for a title, for instance, everything has to be done within that season, or that title is forever forfeited. If I understand this correctly, you'd still be able to get those titles, you just wouldn't be able to get the XP for having done them. And that, if that's the way it is, it's a fair compromise. Alright, so, and that's really what's described here. A list of the activities they talk about: defeating primeval envoys and gambit. So if you like to play gambit, then, you know, playing to win will help you. Defeating enemies in Nightfall, the ordeal. Gaining infamy or valor ranks. Acquiring the ritual weapons and its cosmetic ornaments. Winning rounds in Trials of Osiris. And completing the Grandmaster Nightfall. Now, these are all basically in-game type activities, and those are just examples. It's not everything. So, will Wrathborn be in there to some extent? I'm sure. You know, samples of activities that people can do solo, quickly, and repeatably. Alright, so it says not all the challenges require the level of accomplishment, but the harder or longer the challenge is, the more experience it rewards. That's common sense, and that's fair. Okay, so these are the 3 ritual vendors: Zavala, Zaxxon Drifter, and Banshee 44, and the seasonal vendor. So these folks will no longer give the weekly bounties. So, bright dust. Here's an example of the amount of bright dust that all players can get. Free seasonal activities, 6,000. Seasonal extra, 4,000. Total, 10,000. So if you're a new light player, basically, and you're playing the free version, you can get up to 6,000 in bright dust in a season if you do everything. If you do everything and you're a paid player, you can get an additional... Oh, excuse me. Yeah. You can get up to 10,000 if you buy. So, seasonal pass bright dust, free path 7,500, paid path 3,000, total 10,500. Now, weekly ritual vendor challenge, bright dust all players, 120 bright dust per ritual vendor per character, 14,040 total if completing all required weekly challenges over the course of season 13. It's important to remember that a ship, for instance, if you buy a ship, that could be anywhere from 2,800 to 3,500 bright dust, as for instance. So an emote might be 2,000. Generally, those are the things that I buy. I don't really buy much else, so I can't talk about armor or anything like that. But you're gonna have to actually get into these activities quite hard, unless you have a stockpile of bright dust like I do. All right, so moving on. Sandbox changes. So the following weapon archetypes have their mouse and keyboard recoil adjusted closer to controller. I'll reduce this down to just a few sentences. What they're trying to do is they're trying to make the play between PC players who play on controller and those who play on mouse and keyboard is more similar, so that mouse and keyboard players don't have such a distinct advantage. One of the things they're after is recoil and stability on mouse and keyboard. And I'll tell you right now that when you play mouse and keyboard, it's laser beam. You know, you can ignore stability stats on guns. In fact, I do. Handling, it matters, you know, because that has to do with the feel of the weight, but stability is a complete non-issue. So hand cannon wise, it's much easier to shoot a hand cannon, in my opinion, on mouse and keyboard than it is, say for instance, on a controller. I might have people that argue with me on that one, but I don't know. There's not as much aim assist, but if you can aim, mouse and keyboard has a distinct advantage. Everything's a laser beam. So they're going after that, and they're going to reduce the recoil by 40 to 20%. So somewhere in that range. Auto rifles, scout rifles, pulse rifles, submachine guns, hand cannons, and machine guns are all going to get knocked down. Now, they also made some adjustments to different weapons after they tested them and said, look, we had to make slight adjustments here because we overcorrected them for mouse and keyboard after testing, and I have a feeling, I hate to agree with this because it degrades play for what I do, but in the competitive arena, if you're in PvP, you're getting owned by people with mouse and keyboard. I'll just be honest with you, because there's no way in the world you can compete with the level of control that a mouse and keyboard player has. I mean, you just can't, and I've done both. So I get it. And yeah, I grudgingly approve of this, but you know, I may just plug a controller in and play with controllers from here on out too. If this offers no advantage, there's no reason to do it. All right, they're looking at buffing. Rocket launchers, they're going to buff their damage by 30%. They're also going to buff fusion rifles. I think they said range stat is going to go up by 6%, 16. Increased fusion rifle damage, fall off start distance based on range stats. 6% with 0 range, 16% with 100 range. They're going to be shooting farther. You're going to see more fusion rifles. Will it be air until bad? I kind of doubt it. There's only one fusion rifle right now that is probably on par with that, and that was the seasonal weapon we just got from the Dawning event, and I can't think of the name of it, but even at that, I think you have to have the right roll, and you can't get it anymore. So if you don't already have it, you know, or if you've been deleting them because who cared about fusion rifles, I just don't think this will be the problem that it could be if it was freely available. Breech load grenade launchers. Now, they see that they're not being used, so what they're going to do is they're going to make the projectile detonate if it strikes a combatant. So the problem is that right now most of them you have to hold the trigger and release when you think your projectile is close to your target, and it's pretty unreliable and takes a lot of skill to use properly, and most people just don't possess that skill, so you don't mess with them. And Bungie's realizing that, hey, maybe we ought to, you know, make them more palatable, so that's what they're trying to do with it. Then again, they're going after in nerfs, they're going to go after the sniper rifles again. So they're going to increase ADS flinch, which means if you can fire on a sniper, if you want to close the gap, if you can put some rounds into the head, chances are you're going to have a better chance of getting there. The problem is going to be if when you strike the head of a player, does the reticle go up and then come right back down to the head, your head? Which is what typically happens. So a smart player will let you shoot them once in the head, let that come down, they'll pop you in the head. Could still be a thing, I don't know. Swords are going to get nerfed by 15%. They're going to keep hitting swords until we stop using them. I understand why they're doing it, but if they don't bring up other weapons, I mean, yeah, rocket launchers got a bit of a buff, but they're so low that I don't know if that's going to make the distance. They're just making it harder is all they're doing. They're not... This is the problem with what they do, okay? They're not making things better so that you want to use them. They're making things worse so everything's bad. And so everything's equally bad. And I'm sorry, that's the truth. And you might say, well, the game's too easy. And that's neither here nor there. You're just making everything uninteresting. I don't know if that accomplishes what you want, you know, especially in the state of a game where there's nothing interesting right now really anyway. All right, exotic changes and bug fixes. This just has to do with these weapons losing their buffs whenever you pull out a ghost. They're changing the hard light Borealis animations whenever you change their elements, making it quicker. Duality, increase damage fall off distance by 1.25 meters. Reduce the maximum buff stacks from 7 to 5. Sturm will once again reload any equipped special weapons so long as it's not already fully loaded. And the Merciless will speed up its charge rate based on non-lethal hits. That was the big perk of the gun, is that as long as you keep hitting the target you're shooting at, the fire rate's going to get more and more rapid until you kill it or you run out of ammo. Alright, Crimson Days, not coming back. They're just not going to come bring it back this year, which, you know, I mean, if you're a big PvP doubles player, and there probably aren't very many of them, especially in the state of PvP right now, you know, this might or might not be a big deal. They claim they're going to put more time into other activities, and they promise big things coming, but yeah, Crimson Days is gone, and I'll be honest with you, I've never done it. Well, I did it once, but not a fun thing to me. Doubles just not a fun thing. All right, and then here are some known bug issues. You know, the video is getting long enough. I don't really want to go any further into this, but that's pretty much it in a nutshell. So it was a big TWAB this week. There are some changes. It'll be interesting to see what is brought with season 13 or 14. I'm hoping for Vault of Glass. It would get me to raid again. I am interested to see what they do with the mouse and keyboard changes. And of course, you know, the few buffs that they did do, for instance, rocket launchers. I mean, hey, I'd love to carry a rocket launcher if it's worth carrying. You know, buffing enough that I want to carry it. I hope they did. All right, with all that said, I guess that's probably all there is to say. I want to thank you for watching, and this is Iron Bill, and I'm signing out.